Last week, we were talking about a story, an allegation that had been, made. It became the basis of our conversation, looking at the bigger picture, looking at situations of if a situation like this happened to you, how would you react? What would you do? And uh, we left the story because it was still a developing story. And this week, I think we return to a totally different story altogether. The story has moved from the allegation of the abuse or molestation of this 14-year-old girl. Nisha, she's been named, and I wish she hadn't been, because now she's all over the news, something that is going to stay with her for the rest of her life. It has put her in the public limelight, bringing out elements that we probably even didn't need to know. But that's the dilemma with social media. The moment you allow yourself to be exposed, to go there, to go into the public, you are inviting people into your home. Welcome to Come. Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, live on 75W Radio, live on Umma Connected. We are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, and we are on Zoom, as well as Instagram. Once we are on Facebook, I think we are streaming live on Instagram as well. Tonight, we are asking, where did it all go wrong? When did we lose sight of where we were supposed to be? Growing up, children were supposed to be brought up by the community. I remember on the way from school, playing about, a neighbor finding you, picking up a stick, caning you, and then telling you not to play on the road. You're meant to be going home. That's where you ought to be. This person would still come home. And then the moment you see them, your heart races, because you know as they come, they will have to report what they saw. They report to your parents, who follow suit and punish you. This is how communities were built. Just like on weddings, an entire community would stand up. People would bring bananas, people would bring banana leaves, those who didn't have any bananas ready in their plantations. People would bring goats, people would bring cows to make sure someone's wedding stands. Right now, we see now weddings have turned into something totally different, and almost a manipulation of the relationship that is supposed to be. And unsurprisingly, you see what has happened to these relationships, dying almost as soon as they start. You look at a community where government officials have become so corrupt that nothing can be done without you having to bribe your way into a system. Even simple things that would have required nothing, you find it has gone down the drain to the extent that that's how it plays out. We are in a community or in a society where mothers can and do feed on the nudity of their children, selling out their girls, their daughters, prostituting them out so as to make a little bit of money. We are living in times where fathers have abandoned their responsibilities of fathering the children beyond just getting them born, but fathering them in the context of being the father, being a father figure. Men have turned into useless creatures in a lot of ways. And that's not a stereotype. It's not all men, but I mean a significant number of men who have just decided to be there. The Banyarwanda have got a nice catchword for them. They are called abapfuzi. These are just young men who will do the best to just not work, but make sure they are working out. They are not working at all. They just go to the gym, build their six packs, and then do the rest of the job. The husbands who are working so hard away from home, truck drivers, business people who have to travel away, these young men now become the sugar daddy, the substitute husbands in the little villages and towns. And it doesn't matter anymore whether it's a village or it's a town center. That evil has spread across. Men that are well known now, our Chuba, who are brought in as mercenaries to service homes in the absence of their husbands. Husbands who have gone and lost their responsibilities, fathering children but failing to provide not only food, but even essentials like making sure these children go to school. We've got parents who have turned into thieves, selling or eating their children's properties without a grip of shame, without a doot of shame. I've had cases of people who have traveled abroad, worked so hard, oftentimes without papers, sending money back home to their parents, to their relatives, to help them build, just in case they are arrested and sent back home, to have something that they can fall back onto, only to go back and there is nothing. Some have even gone to the extent of wanting to kill the very people whose money, whose sweat they've eaten. What has happened? People used to be able to trust each other so much. You could get your daughter, give them to someone to take them to school alongside your own children. Who can you trust now to be able to deliver on that? It's a painful kind of situation. People have grown to hate not only themselves, but hating their country too. People feel ashamed to be Ugandans, for instance. When did we lose it? What has happened to us that now the court of public opinion is the court that is going to determine how we run our homes? Every little thing, and people have gone out. Suddenly, things that were almost taboo on TV stations, you'd never allow the word F, the F word, to sort of appear. Every time the word appeared, you would hear a bleep sort of coming in, and people would be shying away from that. A few years later, and even children say 10 F words in 2 sentences to their parents, not to their peers, but their parents. Parents do the same in the presence of their children. Mothers, fathers, children, you cannot tell the difference. Something has terribly gone wrong. In fact, stark reminder of Allah saying subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, Ba'da a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Allah says, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. God does not change a situation that is with people until and unless they change their own situation. We have allowed ourselves to slide so low that you cannot trust anyone. I've been selling goats now for the last 5 years. 99% of the people that buy from me are people in the diaspora. People that will trust me with their money and just wait for their animal to be delivered in their home. Last year or this year, I'm in Uganda and there is a panic because there are people back home who hear, this person delivers and so on and so forth, and they come to you and they ask, giving you a phone call, bring me a goat and I'll pay you when you arrive. And you say, that's not how we work. And they say, we don't trust that you can deliver. This is how bad it's got. That there are people that could be entrusted with money, asked to send it somewhere, or probably I've given you money, you shall pay me back. Abaganda ne batuuka n'okugera akagero nti gw'owola otudde omubanja oyimiridde. What has gone wrong? I would like you to help me, because in this program, this global community conversation that is Come Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira, all of us are experts. We look into this. I would like to hear your own personal experiences of what has gone wrong and when or where it has gone wrong. When did we lose it? Because some things start slowly, and before you know it, it has really gone out of proportion and you can no longer control it. It's just unbelievable. Why and how did it get so bad? What have we done so wrong that inside homes, there are homes that you visit? You see the manner in which wife treats husband, and you feel like wanting to ask the ground to swallow you. You look at the way children treat their father, and you feel sorry. Men have lost it. Someone comes in their home and they look like they are naked while dressed. When did it get this bad? Men who become so mean that they cannot even buy a box of bananas to bring to the family. A man who will go out, strive, but allow the wife to put everything on the table. And because she has done it, you feel like she ought to continue doing it. Let her do it. When did men lose on that perspective, on that place that made them men? What has happened that has turned people so mean that they cannot deliver? When you hear the story from last week of this Hajj Ali Ngizerwa, you see the kind of money he was spending, buying cars, building houses. And I wonder how many of men in the diaspora would have the courage to do that. Or because women work, we have reneged on our responsibilities. Are we getting back what we have paid? So sad, says Habiba. Me, I look at all these things and I think it's a sign of Qiyam. Who wouldn't? But of course, why don't we open our microphones to get an insight? In fact, Bwana Isma, if you have that second clip, please, I'd just like to listen to a little bit of it because this is bringing a whole minister. This issue has actually brought everyone to stand up. Even Full Figure is part of the conversation now. Mama Fina is up in arms, saying for having seen what a person is capable of, with all the love that someone has poured down onto someone and still getting a raw deal out of it. Up to now, there is one question that I'm not satisfied with. I still have a feeling something might have happened between Haji and the girl. And despite the fact that this girl might have slept around, it doesn't matter. Like I said, there was this issue of trust. Of course, considering what else has happened and the girl being forced almost to retract her words, there is that. But the doctor's report made it clear this girl, well, she wasn't a virgin. She's been experiencing sexual experience. And from that, whatever happened, even if it was with Haji, it was consensual because there doesn't look to be any forced signs. That for me leaves a few questions, and I've not heard so far from Haji coming out to deny that this happened. That phone conversation that was recorded, but anything is possible. Inna kaidahunna adima. Their enqueza are very big. It has really led to a lot of questions that I'm sure now many men, and Mama Fina put it very rightly. What have you done to us, Zura, with the women that have children that are still looking for men? And you would know because Mama Fina has got married nearly 4 times if my memory serves me right, and probably still continuing to get married. Every man now that goes into this situation, abasajja bagenda kwesika twesise. Even those that were beginning to build up courage kati kuddayo mu shell. Munyarwanda agaa turarucuka rumira. Kubanga arumye olulimi mu kamwa ate n'olumirirayo kubanga terujja kufulumayo. Weerumye n'olumira. It is an absurd situation, and I would like to hear from you your experiences of what has gone wrong. Probably I've just mentioned a few. But we've seen children, maids in homes, almost suffocating children. There's an image that was going on, a video from last week of a woman who got a polythene bag, a kavera, and put it on the head of a baby, a toddler. Toddler is struggling for breath. We've seen a woman who nailed something in the head of a daughter, of a son, of a young boy. This woman has been arrested. With even all these arrests, that slap of a policeman, yes, I know the security services have been brutal, but traffic police have been on the other side of it. I've never seen traffic police getting engaged in all of this. Traffic police officer trying to carry out his job, and the next thing, a slap in the face. Of course, for the first time at least, justice has been served. But now you see citizen journalism coming in. Of course, now it sort of makes the work of courts much more tricky. Because given what has transpired just within 1 week, we've heard from the Yariba Wajatizura, we've heard from, Babakodomi, we've heard from Sengaz, we've had this entire picture from this last week, testimonies from people who came on the show and sort of said, we know this one, this is how we have dealt. All these questions now bring about something within the social fabric, something that is really worrying. If anyone is not worried about this, then you are in a category of your own. It's absolutely worrying. Where are we? What are we bequeathing? What are we giving back to the community, to the children, to the generation that is coming next? Looking how we have mismanaged our generation. What are we passing on? The program is Come. Let's talk with me, Kassim Kayira. Let's just watch a little bit of this clip and then we'll open the mics to you. Isma, please play.
Era yeeyina obukugu obumanya nti awa naffe yali bwepitana kubanga nze sibirina era teyabimpaako naye nga documents zonna zetwali tukozesezza ziraga amannya malala kati ate saawa zino tufuna amannya malala ekiraga nti nno walina okubeerawo okwetegereza ennyo okumanya ono yaani omutuufu omuno yaani omutuufu era ebiwandiiko bitambula bitebibye era enkwatagana ye n'omwana eri etya ne taata w'omwana eri etya tusobole okuba nga tulina obuyinza okutwala omwana waabwe mu mbeera yonna mu ssomero gye tuba tumututte.
Yeah, apologies about that audio. Some of the volume beats are very low, but I think you can just about hear.
Yeah, kubanga bivaayo oluvannyuma ate n'obeera nga tulinga balina ekigendererwa okuwabya. Okay, kakati kambi.
Nsaba kwongerezaako awo katono. Asobole okuba nga atambula lumu, adde lumu ng'alina result sent off. Kubanga kumanya agoogeddwa, tulabye nti taata alina enkizo nene 50%, asobola n'otushowinga nga taata nannyini mwana. Ate mu kubuuza omukyalo yagamba nti omuntu mutwalanga yafa kyendabanga omusango omunene mu ggwanga oba eri obulabe obunene eri omwana we. Ekirala wamubuuza omwinamu omusajja abaana bameka n'akulimba nti amwinamu abaana babiri, ekintu ekitali kituufu. Ekyokusatu nti ku basajja bonna aboogerwako tekuliiko taata wa mwana ku nnangamuntu z'oliko okwogera. Kizuuliddwa nti omukyalo oyo alina ennangamuntu 3. Simanyi oba akola mu kitongole kya NIRA oba alinayo department yonna oba NIRA bweto kati bwekola nnangamuntu I don't know. Naye nga tulabye nti alina national ID 3 naye kenyini akwegambidde nti eno tagimanyi. So I think nti wandimutadde lumu n'amanya nti taata w'omwana oba okulaba nti omwana agenda mu maaso nti ne taata w'omwana twetaaga kino na kino gy'ali oba mutuukire bw'ati ne bw'ati naye tumwetaaga personally ng'omuntu because family y'omwana nayo yatutuukiriddeko nga yo nga si nsanyufu kubigenda mu maaso. So kubanga ninako documents ezimu nga ziriko kintu n'agamanya g'amalala national ID ndala ekiraga nti nno kintu ye taata w'omwana. Family y'omwana bwe yantuukiridde endaga nti beba kintu aminsita ye taata w'omwana era balina abaana bana omu yafa yamuvaako ku madala n'agwa ate yagamba nti yafa. Wamubuuza omwinamu abaana bameka n'agamba nti 2. Anyway mbadde njagala nti omuterumu at least agenda abeere nga adda ng'ate process agitegedde bulungi ng'ayiseeko ne watata w'omwana. Thank you so much.
Okay, kakati Hajati eno gye nkusindise nga bwe nagambye wano ekizimbe ky'olimu President's Office era ebintu ebikwatagana ku mwana state yeebonereza ensi ne bwekusonyiwa ensi ne bweyogera ki n'okukwata omwana wo n'omutuga ensi ne bwekusonyiwa state eba erina obuvunaanyizibwa okugenda mu maaso n'ekkola ki. N'olwekyo kasita waleeta ekintu kino eky'omwana oba omaze okumanya nti oli mu mateeka era ogenda kuleeta wano ebipapula ebyo ng'obimaze ne taata w'omwana eyazaala omwana oyo tubakwase ebikwata ku mwana ate nga tolina buyinza butakikola kubanga kati omaze okuyingira muki mu offices ezikwata ku baana ezirondoola eddembe ly'abaana mu ggwanga ate ng'omwana oyo tumanyi nti nno tali bulungi mukosefu mu bwongo ate era alina ebyamutuukako. N'olwekyo eggwanga litekwa obubudamu oba obuyambi. Kati tugenda kuwa time ogende oleete ebiwandiiko ebituufu gwani ate olejje ne taata w'omwana. Taata w'omwana ayinza okujja yekka era tujja munoonya naye tumufune. N'olwekyo tukole ekintu ekyo nga tukimaliriza kibeera enkya era tugenda kikola nkya bekibeera nga kikutusewa era tujja saagala nnyo twogere ku muntu ali mu kkooti era nsaba mwewale nnyo okwogera ku mbeera z'omuntu ali mu kkooti ne bw'oba owulira ng'ekintu kikulima kubanga oba omenya amateeka okola ki tubeere ku mwana ono tulabe nti omwana tumufunira obwenkanya.
Owekitiibwa mbadde kyensaba ekirala era kyoba otunuulira ennyo naddala ku mwana kigambibwa nti omwana yatambuzibwako n'atwalibwako e Mexico oba yatwalibwako nga baagala ayingire mu America era kigambibwa nti omwana omu gwakugambye y'omu yali amutwala era kyazuuliddwa kigambibwa nti be yabeeranga nabo batwadde information ne bwe baabeeranga okulemererwa okubuuka ebisenge okuyingira mu America which is omwana ono alina national ID alina passport. Tubaye twagala okumanya emyaka gy'omwana emituufu ne passport y'omwana n'entambula gy'atambulamu bimutume lumu. It's okay, which is okay. Bimutume lumu atwete passport y'omwana
tuula mwana tojja kuyitawo wali Belinda tumalize kwa tojja kuyitawo
wajja mawulire kufuna bwenkanya tukuwa bwenkanya. It's okay, no problem. Twagala omwana yatambulako owekitiibwa njagala okitwale nti omwana yatambulako oba okikirize oba okibuuza okimanye lwa nsonga ki tetuganyi tuyamba abantu naffe tulina betuyamba. Osobola okweta omwana omu nayonona abaana bonna ennyanyi emu envundu ette ekisero omwana omu gw'otutte bwe singa abayonona abaana abalala. Ekyokubiri tuli mu mateeka kati wano kubanga taata w'omwana tumwetaaga. Taata w'omwana amanyi nti omwana we yatambulako era omwana ono passport ye eriwa. Omwana w'emyaka 14 nga we mugamba is it sure myaka 14 nga ali mu senior free bwe tugataddatisiza covid and whatever what and what omwana we wa myaka 14 babadde asoma nabo mugamba ali mu senior free bwe kigambibwa nawe bamukuwadde. Is it true ayina 14 years na passport y'omwana ono eriwa yatambula biseera ki
Isma, I think you can stop that so that we can do our own conversation. I think the point has been made. Thank you very much, Isma, in the technical department. Yes, I think this was just a snapshot of the kind of things that have evolved. Sometimes when you open, that's why the English people refer to a Pandora's box. Once you've opened it, you've opened actually a can of worms and you don't know what direction this is going to take. The program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. We are live on 75W Radio, live on Uma, connected on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. Namkwaya Amina has already got into the chat room saying everything changed the moment we decided to abandon our discipline as Africans and adapt to Western life. A child has a right, so kids are no longer beaten or punished. We are fighting so much to get likes on TikTok. That's why people end up doing all sorts of evil to get fame. Our kids dress indecently in front of the parents, and we do nothing about it. The question we are asking, when did we get here? How did we get here? What exactly went wrong? And I give you the mic. Remember, feel free to use, well, either Luganda or English or Swahili. These are all languages acceptable here, and we can translate if we need to. Well, over to you now. We are asking the question, given what we have had, given the experiences we have seen now, and even the lessons, have we learned anything from this? As a person running your home, in case you are in a crisis of sorts, would you rush very fast to the media? Would you rush very quickly to social media? Because from what we have seen, I am sure, I have no doubt whatsoever, Zura, even despite whatever everything says about who she is and what she's done, she never saw this coming. Would you rather play your life on social media and with the results that come with it? She's got a bit of support, but a lot of opposition. This is unfortunate. Right, let's get the conversation going, and I'll try to. Mayanja, I see you came in very early today. I'd like to take your perspective as we get into this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How is Ireland?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yeah, Ireland is good, not so bad. How are you doing over there?
Well, we are surviving. We thank God. We are just depressed looking at what we have been seeing, but also the bigger questions that we are now asking about what exactly went wrong. Regarding our question tonight, where do you think we lost it? When did we lose ourselves?
I think personally, we're facing the impacts of technology. I think something that we have not been prepared for. And of course, with technological advancements, it's not going to warn you what impacts it's going to have on society, politics, economics, and all this kind of stuff. I think I was reading something about when the cars were first invented, people were being knocked all over the place, like in streets. Someone, they had to adapt on things like traffic lights and stuff like that. And then you have the radios coming in, people receiving news, the print media, whatever, what do you call it? The print media, radio, television. Now we're in the age of social media. And then from here, we are going to have the age of AI, whereby people can even deep fake photos, you can deep fake voices, and you can deep fake videos. Then all of a sudden, even providing audio things, like the ones we have seen in this case, would not be enough. Even if you provide a video, it would not be enough. That's where we are heading in life. I think personally, it is technology that is taking over the world, and institutions, religious institutions, social institutions, political institutions, especially in Africa, we are not ready for this sort of advancement. Technology is advancing at a high, fast rate than we are trying to cope up. Our generation is going out, and now our children are going to have to deal with different other technological whatever impacts in one or the other. But for me to just speak about this issue, for me, my biggest takeaway point is the role of family. And for me, I've realized that I can never ever give up on my family, because it will stand up for me. And that's what we have seen on one of the two sides, especially on the gentleman's side, Haji's side. You can see the support that he has received.
Yeah, Sura is almost left to herself despite having family. You don't see many of them coming out to fight for her, regardless of, where she is.
Yeah,
I haven't felt that Haji is innocent. Especially after listening to his other wife, or first wife for that matter, hearing the kind of treatment that he imposed on her, having met in Sudan in very difficult situations, sleeping on the street.
But still, women will be women. They will always give you one side of the story. You have not heard his side of the story about that other woman.
Perfectly fine, but she stayed in the house. She's not driven in the car, and that is
but still, you're only hearing her story. But you're still only hearing her story. That's what women are. And the idea of Obuja, for me, I know what Obuja, we come from polygamous families. You know how the things work. Your mom will always tell you things, and you as a person, you just have to comprehend and say, okay, my mom has said this about my stepmom, but okay, for me not to make my mom angry, I will act as if I've understood what she has said, but I will not try to put it into action against my other mom. It's not going to happen. Now, for stupid people, because her mom has said something that, oh, your dad didn't buy me a car, but he bought for your stepmom a car, then they are going to take it at heart and start hating their mom. sorry, they're going to start hating
you
their dad.
emphasize the point of family and how they have come out now.
Yeah, so let me emphasize the point of, because for me, clearly this shows, especially to the woman's side, she has no support mechanism, especially with her own family. And for me, I found that it's like a telltale sign. I'm like, why isn't anyone in her family coming up, or business people or friends or this kind of stuff? I mean, this clearly shows the kind of person she is. And religiously, as well as even in court, I think I've seen lawyers who are mentioning, or who are talking about, a person like that who has lied in plain sight. You cannot bring him into the courts of law as a witness in one way or the other. There's a video that came out, I think, earlier today. I don't know if you listened to those audios, where all this started from. The sister to Haji, who has Haji's phone. This lady sent clips and then deleted them, 4 of them. She sent them where the kids were testifying, whatever, that they had been, that the other one had been raped or whatever, defiled, and then this one was confirming it. And the words were being twisted every minute and, step of the time. And all of a sudden, because I know some people might want to say something, but for me, I've been following also this story from the beginning up to now, because this lady actually made a very interesting, she played very interesting clips of the Haji actually denying, because I heard you saying that he has not come out to deny. He actually denied.
Right.
He actually denied, and she said that the woman is playing her gimmicks that she has been doing over the time. And for the very first time, I heard Haji in a tone that I've not heard him use in the clips that have been, in the clips that have been coming out. And he really, really fought back on that lady, and that's what actually prompted the lady to go out there and start to put these allegations on the gentleman. But personally, for me,
but Fazil, again, with technology, it could be that these clips were cooked along the way and provided, because we haven't seen the dates on the clips.
No, they have they have showed the dates of the clips. If you go on Salt Media, they actually got the gentleman's phone, and then they showed the phone. They showed the dates, they showed the deleted messages, they showed everything. At least I've been following this thing to the core. Like, I've seen every interview,
I've
seen
so hard,
everything
but
out there.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, you should watch that one on Soul. The guy shows the phone. I mean, you cannot plant a message in WhatsApp. That's something someone cannot do. And for me, when that audio actually came out, and that's where most people actually were like, okay, now we get it. So for me, just lastly, it is the role of family, by the way. I think for whatever I do in life, I should make sure that I keep my family closer, because I know if anything happens, they'll be the first people to come out and, support me in one way or the other. Because the way this story came out, majority of us definitely were very much touched. But the best way to fight social media was, especially majority of us who are in this space, it is to come out with a counter war. Yes, if the other one brings a pistol, you bring a sabasaba, and that's what I think. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Fazil. Thank you very much, Fazil. And it's exactly 1 minute. Well, it's 9 o'clock. Minute just clicked into 9 o'clock. Oh my God, and time can fly. We haven't even started talking that much. Thank you very much, Fazil. For me, part of the takeaway was, I think I've been all over the place listening to this, because I've done lots of stories of, of the nature that we are talking about. I've done quite a couple of stories, around this. And so when it came to me, it sort of was a shock. And I wanted to start from a point of believability, saying an allegation has been made. It wasn't that I believed it, but an allegation has been made. The first thing to do is investigate. Where is the evidence? So we started rolling with the evidence that had been provided from one side, but that is until you start hearing from the other side. I got, text from the Quran, experience from the Quran, which was 2 stories that actually stand out, which are on allegations, interestingly. The first one is the wife of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Aisha radiallahu anha, who has really been the center stage of a lot of controversy. And I'm just quickly reading Said Katende's message here saying, surprisingly, I haven't seen Hajati's family come out strong for her. Did I miss something? Exactly. I think that's probably, now, if she was given the time, if the family is willing to come out, then probably this is the time for them to come out and give the other side, because a lot of bashing has happened. And she's really actually now in her own self now, her mental state. And that's why I said, she never had any idea she was opening a can of worms, a Pandora's box that could not be closed. And we are already now on a journey that is totally different. But I was saying the Quranic examples that Allah has brought, a lot of these things, and that's where oftentimes if we are looking for solutions, we look into the religious text to see what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say. And that actually sets the precedent, the basis, the very foundation from where we start doing our journey. The wife of the Prophet ﷺ, in one battle, they go out for a battle. The Prophet would always move with either one or two of his wives, but oftentimes it would be one wife who would escort him to the battle. Battles would take some time because of the distances as well. So the Prophet needed care. While he was an army commander, he still needed his, his household, his husbandry rights. That's not only conjugal rights, but also being assisted by his wife. So one of the wives would travel with the Prophet ﷺ to go. And we see, for example, in Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, when they went to Hudaybiyah, Salama was there, and she came up with something that actually helped very much to change the situation. People were so annoyed about the treaty that the Prophet ﷺ signed because it did not allow them to enter Makkah, and that's what they had come to do. Many of them were sort of disappointed. They wouldn't face the Prophet to sort of show it directly, but they were very hesitant to take the commands, especially when he asked them to shave their heads and, act as if they had done their Umrah and therefore go back to Medina. Salama said to the Prophet ﷺ, you can see they are not responding to your command. Best way is to lead by example. Shave your hair. Nobody else will stop not shaving their own hair. The Prophet ﷺ shaved his head. Once he had done, all the Sahabas followed suit. So that was leading by example. You see now the role of a good wife, or with a wife's presence, even in a time of battle. The wife of the Prophet ﷺ, Aisha radiallahu anha, escorts him on a battle. They were going to the battle, and the battle was far away from Medina. Now she would travel in what is called a howdaj. A howdaj is it's sort of a shelter that is placed on top of a camel to cover her, so to shelter her from the sun, but also not, like expose her. They go to battle. The battle was finished. The Prophet ﷺ would go with the group. Aisha radiallahu anha remained behind, so she was being brought to come and join the group. And then she wanted to ease herself. She asked the person who was riding the camel, and the howdaj was put down with the camel. Aisha radiallahu anha went to ease herself. Surprise, surprise, as things would happen, she falls asleep while she had gone, because she wouldn't ease herself in public. It's a desert, remember, so she had to move a little bit of a distance to sort of ease herself. Because she was so light, even her presence on the camel would not be that felt. If it was Kayira sitting on a camel, be assured you would feel that I've sat. But this is Aisha radiallahu anha. She was very light, she was skinny. So the man who was leading the camel assumed that Aisha radiallahu anha, considering the amount of time that had transpired, that she had come in and, and sat on, and so left. So the entire group goes. But then the way of battle is you have the advanced group. There would be a group, oftentimes of, young fighters who would go, they would reach Medina very quickly, start announcing the army is coming back, the army is coming back. Now, wives would hear that because Medina was a small place, around that time. So these criers would get to the town and sort of say, the Prophet is coming back, the Muslims, the fighters are coming back. Now, the wives would get that message. Quickly, they would get bathing, they would get the food ready so that their husbands, by the time the husbands arrive, which is about 2-3 hours, these ones would be on horses, the others were on camels, slowly moving. So the first advanced group would go, enter the city, alert everybody that the group is coming, allow the wives especially to sort of get ready, because it is very wrong even for men to sort of walk on to your wives just as if by accident. Give a phone call, send a text message, I'm here. ne bw'aba alina omusajja gwakwesa afune bw'afuluma tomulaba maaso akiri kufa mutima. You provide that, like never get into a home as if you are sneaking into your own home. Knock. So the note is, I'll be home in about 20 minutes. That allows the wife to be able to get ready for you, blah, blah. So the advanced group has gone. The middle group, which is the fighting group with the Prophet ﷺ as the commander, also follows suit. The wife is left behind. So there's normally a last group, and this group is the one that picks up stuff that might have been left. Maybe there are people that are injured. Maybe there's whatever has been left behind. There's this little group that now follows to ensure nothing is left behind. One of the young men is walking around, the battlefield. They are sort of leaving, and then sees Aisha. Aisha has slept. She's fallen asleep, very tired, probably from the heavy sun during the day. And she fell asleep on the ground, probably next to where she had eased herself, but she's in deep sleep. When this Sahaba sees, he doesn't imagine that someone, especially that the group has moved, that this person would be alive. So he says, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Surprise, surprise, Aisha comes back to life, radiallahu anha, wakes up, and then she panics hearing Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, wondering who has died. Now, there's no way this Sahaba would have left the wife of the Prophet ﷺ on a battlefield, yet their responsibility is to pick up whoever was left behind. Now, what happened then is they arrive late in Medina. In arriving late, word starts going around. The hypocrites had gone around and said, the Prophet's wife, word starts spreading like wildfire. This young man has slept with the Prophet's wife. It becomes an issue. And this young man was related to Abu Bakr, the father of Aisha, Aisha, the wife of the Prophet. This young man now, actually the young man who started spreading the rumor, not this young man, the young man who started spreading this rumor was a person who was being assisted by Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. It becomes a big issue, a big scandal. The Prophet struggles. For 40 days, this was a prophet who was receiving revelation on almost everything that was happening. But for some reason, God, for 40 days, was silent about this issue. To the point that the Prophet ﷺ gets to the point of going to Aisha and says, oh, my wife, I beg you, we are only human beings. You could probably have committed a mistake. It is all right. If you have, please let me know so that we can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive you. Like we can go through the process of repentance. And Aisha cried out. At that moment, subhanahu wa ta'ala brought the context of Surah An-Nur, which comes to now exonerate Aisha. But it had been 40 days. Now you look at the situation in Uganda, it's 1 week. And you see the kind of transformations that have happened. The second story in the Quran, which also appears in the Bible, is the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, Joseph. Yusuf alayhi salam, and what transpires, the wife of Al-Aziz, who now wants, she's dying for Yusuf. Yusuf, a very handsome young man. This woman looks at him and says, try as you could, and even Yusuf was beginning to fall, as according to the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Lawla an ra'a burhana rabbi. If it was not for Yusuf to see the sight of Allah, not seeing Allah by face, but the remembrance of God was the only saving grace between him and sleeping with this woman. Abakazi tebasemba nacho, this woman is angry. How would this man refuse me? In fact, the word she uses in the Quran is Hai talak chicho taraba. What can you not see? So you can imagine now the kind of exposure probably that she had done to excite the Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. The sign of Allah, thanks to Sheikh Zaid, the sign of Allah, the sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided to Yusuf at that moment, at that very critical moment. Now, things happen, because then it takes another almost 12, 20 years before a true revelation of this is done. There was a prior revelation, because Al-Aziz comes and this woman knows what time her husband arrives. She shouts so hard, gets her dress and tears it, tears tears the dress, but from the front, and then comes to the husband and quickly says, imagine what this boy was trying to do to me. And then suddenly the story is twisted. It's like Yusuf was trying to rape the woman instead of the woman actually trying to entice him. Now, there was a toddler, we are told, who comes out and says, look at the evidence. If this woman's dress is torn in the front, then she is, then she will be right. If she's torn in the back, it means she was running away and Yusuf actually was trying to grab her. If it is torn in the front, then it is definitely, Yusuf was trying to resist and the woman was throwing herself to him. And it became clear, looking at the evidence that was there, what had actually transpired. But that wasn't enough. This woman now, actually, you think about social media and what it can do. Because word starts going around. You can imagine the wife of the prime minister being involved now in this, situation. Shame that comes. Every woman, you can imagine the red papers of that time, the Sun newspapers of that time, what they would be actually, feasting on, what the Kasukus of that time would be saying, what the Karakatada would be talking about. That's the talking point on everybody's mouth. This woman unashamedly now, feeling the pressure, invites the women of the high class, of course, of her class, asks them to come each, and then each one of them gives them a knife. And as they are going to be peeling some stuff. It's either apples or potatoes. And then she calls Yusuf to come out while all these women are sat there. Every woman who looked at this man says, Hasha lillah, we cannot believe this. This cannot be a human being. This is an angel. Meanwhile, while doing that, they chopped their fingers. I'm sorry, I sort of dragged on 14 minutes into 9 o'clock, but I was just trying to sort of lay the foundation of the kind of, once you open the door, how closing it becomes difficult, but also how it is easy to see something for what it is not. Yusuf, it takes a couple of years after he's taken to prison for a crime he never committed. Several years down the road, some people say 12 years, some people say 20 years, because by the time the revelation was made about what exactly transpired, it took 40 years for his dream to come true. But this is what can happen, and both cases involve women. Take note of that. Let's hear more of your stories, please. I just say that was the takeaway from me, not to rush into conclusion. Some things look what they are not. Muhammad, I see you there. Then I'll go to the ladies to balance out. Muhammad, you would even put a question there. Sheikh, what's the name of the Prime Minister's lady in the story of Yusuf? I actually know her name. I will remember in the process. I know it absolutely well because it comes back. It's mentioned there. I will, inshallah, hopefully get it. If on any of the other sheikhs on here remembers, please do while I still try to scratch my head. Muhammad, go ahead, please. We are just talking about, well, where we have gone wrong. Where did we lose ourselves? And for those who are new to this conversation, Mambi Wanobulimuntu expert. So we'll just come to you to relay what you have to say about what we are talking about. And probably that's the reason. Muhammad, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله
Thank you
وبركاته.
very much for joining the conversation tonight. Well, first of all, it's been a very hectic week now with the social media awash with the stories going on. What is your takeaway so far? Yes, it is Zulaikha. Sheikh Zaid, thank you very much. I was actually just about Zulaikha was the name, Muhammad, while you are still there. Zulaikha was the name of the lady.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes. What's been your takeaway just before we look at where we went wrong?
Okay. My takeaway looking at so the things that have been happening is, I think from the story that you've given, I've listened to the Sirah by explained by a certain sheikh. I think he says, and I also think it's one of the most comprehensive explanations of the Sirah that's available probably in the English language. So if anyone wants to listen to it, I think it's over 110 lectures.
Is
by
it by
Sheikh
Sheikh
Yasir Qadhi.
Anwar al-Awlaqi or who?
No, it's by Sheikh Yasir Qadhi. So they are on
Qadhi, yeah,
YouTube.
yes, okay.
Yes, they are on YouTube. So uh, like he keeps on giving insights, and uh, for some of the stories, you actually look at the things that he tries to relate it to the period that we live in currently, and how the Sira can be beneficial. So one of the stories that you mentioned is the story of Aisha, for example.
Mm.
So we look at it, if you look at it from the side of Aisha, it's for her, it's patience. But then if you look at it from the side of the other people who were in Medina, uh, it was a rumor that was started by one person. But in the end, there came, I would say, condemnation or khasara for so many people just because of that thing. And the reason is uh, probably many people would, for example, advance something before they get to know the full story. Yes.
Yes.
So I think one of the things I've taken away from this is it's just 1 week and there are so many twists and turns. One day or this, and then you sleep, and then you wake up one morning and you hear something else, and you say, "Oh, maybe I should have been on the other side." And then the next day, "Oh, I should have been on the other side."
Yes.
So I think what we can take away from this is at least to always wait, wait it out as much as possible until a certain time comes when at least the truth is clear or evident. Of course, we will not get in our time revelation on something, but you look at everything objectively.
Mm.
Because the first day it came out, so many people saying this Hajj should be hanged, and now you imagine if they were not just opinions, at least we are happy.
If he had been hanged and
Opinions,
now we have to hear this.
exactly. He would now be a dead person.
Yes.
I had some people going to the extent, if someone was asked, for example, if this was your son being accused, and so they were like, I would rather believe a woman, uh, and my son will figure it out. So a few days after I asked them, now your son would be dead. How would you be thinking about it? So it's better to wait before making judgment on anything. Maybe another thing is from the Quran. Uh, it's a specific ayah. I think it's specific to إذا جاءكم فاسق
إن
بنبأ
جاءكم فاسق
فتبين.
بنبأ فتبينوا أن
Uh,
تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين.
yes, yes,
Allah is telling people that be very careful when a person comes to you with news. Actually, it's not just any person, but it's a spoiled person, and I'm using spoiled just
yes,
deliberately sort of to create. And I think
yes,
for me, on the forum of sheikhs, when the news had just broken up, were having an intense conversation, and someone brought this verse, and I said, "This is not the place of this verse now." Until
mm,
until I had evidence and testimonies about Zura, the woman, then suddenly now that qualified it because the verse says in
mm.
Ja'akum Fasikun. It's not just
فاسق
anybody.
بنبأ. Yes, yes,
Fasikun, it's a spoiled person. It's a person whose character is in question. If they come to you with news, fatabayanu, be very careful. Take caution and first, investigate, look deep. Why?
yes.
And tusibu qawman bijahalatin, you might harm people through your ignorance.
Mm.
فَتُصْبِحُ عَلَى مَا فَعَلْتُمْ نَادِمِينَ. And then you later on regret your decision once the
Mm.
thing becomes, clear. And you can
Yes,
see now, like you said, if this person was hanged or castrated at the speed at which, I mean, we had people who were bursting with anger. I remember Boss Lady, on this show last week, she was spitting fire. She was spitting nails, literally,
mm.
just wanting, to sort of get this man. And you can imagine if we had just gone with emotions at that time, And then you come to hear these details. You've had in America people who have been jailed, people who have been hanged. We have even actually had people who were going on death row, and the injection was just going to be, applied. And then truth comes out, but it's too late because the judge has washed their hands, and this person is sent to the gallows for a crime they never committed. In UK, we have a guy who was jailed for 27 years. He was released last year, and it became quite a sensational thing. How do you compensate someone for 23 years of their lives, not, like for a crime they never committed? It becomes very difficult. How much do you even pay for that lost time? And how can this person now even start reintegrating into society? All these are things that we should definitely, be thinking about. But Muhammad, before I let you go and hear from other people, where do you think we went wrong in your perspective? Because you've told me about the takeaways, but where do you think we have lost it as a society? It's not just this case. This case is just a nucleus. It's an indication. It's just one
It's a
ingredient
symptom.
into the confusion of what we have become. It's a microcosm of, where our society lies. Where did we go wrong?
I think where we went wrong, I don't know. I don't know much about these isms, communism, capitalism, and all that. But something, to put it in plain language, I think we have descended so much into a position where everyone is just nafsi, thinking about themselves. So I think looking at it and looking at everything that's going on around us, I believe that in the end, that is kind of one of the biggest problems, where one person is not a keeper of the other. Like for every situation, someone is gauging and saying, how do I come out on top, and how do I benefit most? How do I get out of this situation with the most personal benefit? So this applies all through, even through a marriage. People are going into a marriage, but each of them it's like a business deal where someone wants to come out on top of the other. So you have people in a marriage, for example, each is doing transactions secretly. Like, why would you marry a person in the first place? So you have two people living in the same house, then a divorce happens, and then you find out this person has this empire here, this person has this empire here, and it all ceases to make sense. And then I think it's just that
I don't even know the right English word, or kukuta. You find people kukutaring, and you are in a relationship and you're still kukutaring, going behind until someone loses something. Then that's when oftentimes reality comes in. And then in their angst, that's when the husband gets to know the wife has been buying plots, or vice versa. The wife only gets to know the husband has been secretly buying lands and keeping them away, at the point at which this man has lost one of those plots.
In my line of work,
what do you do, Mohammed? And where are you, by the way?
profession.
I didn't ask that, which we normally do for purposes of the program. Where are you now?
I am living currently in Saudi Arabia.
You're in Saudi Arabia.
I'm an accountant.
Your global community conversation, as you can tell now. Yes.
Yes, so I'm an accountant and working with a subsidiary of Saudi Telecom company.
Right.
I think it's the largest telecom within the Middle East. So before, I was working in Uganda with KPMG as an auditor. Yes. So there is something actually, and this is a conversation I carried to forward, like in my life. Before I got married to my wife, I had this conversation with her. So during my time as an auditor within Uganda, there were, banks. I managed to look at the books of some banks. I cannot say which banks because that is it's confidential information, but there is something that alarmed me. There is a procedure that we do within the audit where we look at, they are called unclaimed balances. So I look at the accounts people have millions, actually billions of money seated in accounts that are not active, for example. So I speak to one of the bank managers, say, how do you have over 60, 70 billion seated in accounts that have no activity for the last 3, 4 years, 5 years? So they say this is mostly people who haven't told anyone that they have this asset. And most of the time, it's people
Yes.
who have died.
Mhm.
No one knows anything about what they have. And surprisingly, it's okay. No, I don't know if it's surprising. I don't know the experiences other people have, but about 75% of those accounts belong to ladies.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a lot of money seated there, and after 10 years, it's going to be transferred to the central bank. So
Well,
now,
I actually remember there was a big cry when the government was saying dormant accounts now they were going to get the money. I remember even people in the diaspora now panicking who have money back in Uganda who, sort of complaining that now the government is going to start taking the money from accounts that are dormant, where the money is just sat. They were saying they were just going to use the money. You can imagine how much 60 billion would do even if banks were lending out this money. They were just making a killing, a profit that nobody else is profiting from other than the banks.
exactly. So that I carried that conversation and I told my wife before we got married. I said it doesn't make sense for us two people to get married and then have separate businesses. Like, why exactly are we getting married if we cannot agree on something that we are going to leave behind on earth? Like, if we cannot talk about this and find middle ground or find something where this is like transparent, it doesn't
Brilliant.
make sense to continue
Thank
and
you
be in
very
a.
much, Muhammad. I've given you too much time. I'm sure now people are burning, but I'm sure you've brought in something totally new to this conversation. And actually, it adds to the question of where did we go wrong? Thank you very, very much, Muhammad, all the way in Saudi Arabia. Well, this is your global community conversation without a doubt. And Stella Mandarema has just joined us as well. Well, just moving on, let's just bring in more people into the conversation. I wanted to hear from new people, especially because probably it doesn't take away from the old people, the oldies in the show, but it helps a lot to just hear from some of the new people. Mama Umaru, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And like I said, if anybody feels ayagara kuyomba muruganda, I don't mind at all. Please feel free. Mama Umaru, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for joining us. Where are you joining us from?
I am joining from the USA.
That sounds like
Sorry?
That sounds like Safina a lot.
No, this is Janat actually.
Janat, yes, your voice sounds like Hajat Safina. Welcome to the
But
conversation.
honestly, I wish I had anything to say about this story, much as it's been going on, but I haven't followed it up, and I thought this would give me the gist of the whole conversation.
Well, don't worry about the story itself, because I think that the bigger picture is we are even looking at how our society has sort of deteriorated. Seeing what you're seeing in the social media, now, if you have an issue at home and the first place you run to, I mean, last week we were sort of asking the question, God forbid, but you have your husband and then a claim is made, a child comes to you and says, Dad, molested me, whatever. What would be your sort of first point of call? And people came up with sort of situations, trying to paint situations, because it doesn't mean you want it to happen, but in case, because for most people it is just the shock of their lives to hear this, regardless of what transpires thereafter. But I mean, at the very first instance of hearing this news, how you respond to it is very critical. So we are therefore sort of seeing everything that is going wrong now. Could it be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is punishing us probably for the things that we are not doing right? Because the moment you go in, I actually now, as I mentioned this, and a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ comes to mind. The Prophet ﷺ talks about a person who has journeyed so much, is all rough, dirty, from the fatigue of the journey. And then this person stands up and prays to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save him, to save her from the kind of dire situation that they are in. And the Prophet ﷺ says, وَمَا أَكَلُهُ حَرَامٌ وَمَشْرَبُهُ حَرَامٌ وَمَلْبَسُهُ حَرَامٌ أَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ ذَلِكَ. The Prophet is saying, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that this person is standing in tears, in crying, in full conviction, like asking Allah for this help because they are in dire straits. But the clothes they are wearing is from haram. The food they are eating is from haram. The drinks that they've been having are from haram. And the Prophet ﷺ asks a rhetorical question: how do they expect Allah to respond, to answer their call, to answer their supplication, their prayer, when they are in this kind of state? Now, all of us are in a state where at one point or another, we are buried. We are bathing in some kind of haram. You are either eating riba, because that's why most families now, as husband leaves home to go and work, wife is praying and children are praying, Ya Allah, may he bring good rizq that is not, infested with haram around it. But you go out, you are getting bribes, forcing, bribes from people. You have arrested someone, you create a situation, you kidnap yourself and ask for ransom, you want the money, you get the money, and that's the money you bring home. You go, you cheat someone. In Uganda right now, you go to the shops, you go to Chikubo, buy a 50-kilogram bag or 25-kilogram and put it on a weighing scale, and you'll be shocked. Of sugar, of rice. These are things that come from the factories sealed. People get to these shops and then go and tamper with them. So you buy a 50-kilogram bag, but if you started measuring 1 cup, like sort of distributing, you go and buy, because oftentimes, for example, if I go, I have so many people in the village, and I'm saying the only way to see them, if I'm going to visit someone, I'll just buy my 50-kilogram sugar and then start putting in my buvera. Start putting a kilo or half kilo, 2 kilos, and you start distributing. You get a 50-kilogram bag, you start getting the 1 kilo. Before you know it, you are 2 kilos short. This is what has happened. You go to Minzani, people are putting stones. You buy a kilo of meat, in actual sense, it's 3/4 of a kilo. Now, you take this money home, the money that you have made from this haram, and you go and you feed it to your family. You come back and reinvest it. You go and buy a plot from money that has been generated from this. The next day, the plot is stolen. And you are not making any connections between these sort of things. You are abroad, sending money back home, asking someone to do something for you. The people steal the money, and use it for their own benefit. And they don't even bother to even apologize or have a way of maybe trying to pay, or pretend even to be trying to pay. Around that, something has definitely gone wrong. And this is really eating at the fabric of who we were and who we are now. Mama Umar, I'm sure you'd have a view on that.
That has been a lot to actually take in, but
Yes.
For me, like I said, I only watched the very first episode, and everything else I've been getting from clips from our social media.
Yeah.
The one thing that I say, it is so unfortunate for us Muslims. Kwakakati webuuza abantu bye batulowoozaako. Omukyala yatuzaalidde ekintu which can easily, kugamba simanyi na kumanya nze ng'Omusiraamu ndi muswavu.
Yes.
And I hope and pray it never happens again to any child. But it is really affecting us negatively. Then you think about the child. Is it really true that omwana bamuraping? And chances are very high, either bamuraping, and not necessarily saying it's hard. So you think about what is going to happen to that child. Nenga bottom line, the dynamics of the family, character yoyo muchala. It is just so bad okuja webise okola biki nenga byonna byogera, and especially the last clip Jemu showing zao. Ate nayo ine chala chempadde, of all people full figure. Ngate full figure wa ensonga enkulu.
Getting involved. Aina avamu ekintu ky'amakulu nga tawemudde.
And this is the first time okumulira nga avamu eky'amakulu. So all in all, bino bintu biri so unfortunate, and it's the first time I'm hearing ng'omukyala bamutadde kuki. She's on the spot. Yes. She's been put on the spot. I wish really I could add on more nenga all in all fenga basiramu doza ndabanga kitukubye
kati ng'abakyala wo kubanga ati abasiraamu tuzzeemu ffenna tuli mu kuswala we are swimming in that swala river. Oroza kubachara kati, what do you think? Are you worried about the sort of message this is going to send to men? Because you've just heard from Muhammad in Saudi Arabia, his experience working in banks in Uganda, and it's not actually only in Uganda, but there's a lot of money that is unclaimed. You've had the billions that were unclaimed, at least by the time he was there. And this was money that 70% belonged to women. That says something. Do you think that probably as a woman you should worry about the outcome of this beyond just being a Muslim? Because there's that general swara, but is there a specific swara on women?
I wouldn't say we can have our own little things out there. I don't think that is a crime. Kubanga, knowing so well that in our cultures, abami, you're kind of like the ones always driving. Kizibu nnyo n'okulaba omukyala alina ssente ne baluuza ssente za mukyala era bagamba bbawe yakola ki yazimu oba whatever that society thinks. Kale ffe ng'abakyala, I think we have to be our own independent women as far as things like that are concerned. N'ebino eby'omukyala biri negative, kukweka ani azaala mwana, kukweka basajja, kufumbirwa basajja bangi. That is not typical of a Muslim woman. So I wouldn't want to see any of myself or any of the women, the solid women, bemanyi nze nganze okulaba nti I can even compare them with that lady. Tasobola kubanga atukiikirira. Abakyala basiraamu tulina values across the board. Kale ebibuuzo by'omubuuza mwami Kassim nze kunze ndaba nti it's very hard for me to answer.
And I'm coming back specifically on this. Kwanga bugante abakyala mwina values. You see, Zura here represents a couple of women. One, Haji Yamujja Nabugabo Ngatunda Mipira. Women are out there doing business, and therefore, I mean, because I wanted you to think beyond just you. But if you look in Gabo Ganti, Ngaba Silamu to Aswade, you look at this general picture. But when it comes to the specifics of women, do you think there is a worry that probably would come in as a result of this? Do you think men have a reason to worry? That's the way I should put it better.
Maybe they should. No, not all men. And now I'm speaking for the women. And so forth. And I think the other extreme. I don't think the average woman. Yes, twina issues of faith. Nemo Uganda na wano tubirana issue. Nayo mchala ali on the spectrum so it is hard to give advice or an opinion, kubi into mchala byakoze. Nesinga tubade presenting the average woman, akole ebintu bye. Yes, I know sentence, yes, azikweka bawe. Ebyo byonna bijja kubanga mu society n'abasajja namwe mubeera n'ebintu byammwe n'obasa omukyala tomungambye naawe sigamba nti ebintu ebyo nabino obindaga buli omu alina okubeerako that kind independence naye ngo eyavuddewo eyabadde Saudi Arabia bweyayogedde bamba abafumbo ne bamba nga muli mu bufumbo nga it's more than one wife. I think kanjogere kuba one wife ndowooza muteekeddwa okubeera nga buli omu amanyi ebibye whereby why would you trust your relative more than your husband? I think maybe it's service like we don't trust each other, husband and wife. I tell constantly to another fear. So there are so many things involved.
Thank you very, very much. Much appreciated. The first time you are brilliant. You doubted yourself. Now you see how much we've managed to milk out of you. Thank you very much. Number Muna in Germany. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mujye bareka kawungeza kalungi.
Amin.
Kanange is long time. Naye at least jendi alhamdulillah namwe manyi gye muli.
Allahumma amin. Embozi eno nga gibadde ntambulira n'ebyabaddewo. Actually tubadde naawe mu conversation our inboxes during the course of this week. Well, looking at where we are at now, orabanga ugambye kwanga njagadde mpikingire ku message gyotadde mu chat room. You said gwengo omukyala tewaswadde. Don't you think, how do you think now men are going to be affected as a result of this in their relationship to women?
The way reason men are going to be affected in the way they relate to women in such a way that they have to wake up. If there are those who are abusing their they are what? They are stepchildren or their children even.
Yes.
They will step back and know that there is a great eye that is watching them. You may not be seen, but Allah is seeing you. It's one thing, what I would say. Men, my brother, ekyokuyiga ekirimu nti omukyala nze nsuubira omukyala yenna azaddeko ku bwana ng'ayina abaana kyalibadde kirungi abaana abo n'obatwala ewaabwe w'omwami gye babazaala ne bakulira eyo kubanga oyinza obbaleeta mu maka go n'obeera nabo ne bataata baabalala abantu abalala ne baba abusinga which would not be good. Buli mwana yali yagadde okubeera kumpi ne muzadde we maama we. Ekyo kirina okuwa abasajja okuyiga titeweetika buvunaanyizibwa butali bubwo. Omwana maama gwe yamuzaalamu oyo omuntu omwana oyo gy'alina okubeera ate nga gy'omulabiririra. Lwaki mpeera omwana w'omukazi ng'ate n'owanga nnemye okuweerera?
Muna waliwo enjogera eriwo actually ina mu Luzungu, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, the way to a woman's heart is through her children. Omukyala mwagalira omwana ebisigadde wanika akagulu. If it is the case, and therefore many men now have come into homes, and actually some of us were brought up by fathers that were not our fathers. There are people who have had very good experiences in the process.
Was by Keke. That was by then when people had a lot of akili. But these days, some of the men, their legs are left, not right and left. Equally women. Do you know why? Because people have lost the real manners of a human being and how they are raised. Omuntu akula nga ye nga buli kyalaba ekyambadde skirt alookeera. Kati omuntu oyo obeera aneekontrolinga ati abantu bedda, abantu abakulu abaami abaabeerangawo ne bakuza abaana b'abaami abalala, b'abasajja abalala b'abakyala baabwe, baayinanga ensa mu mutima nga bw'alaba oyo omwana amulaba ng'omwana we. Naye as time goes by, people are starting to see things they didn't think of. Why? Because empisa zaggwa mu bantu. Ensonyi zaggwa mu bantu. Abaana bennyini engeri gye beeyisa ewaka. Omwana omuto omulaba wano obeera mu Europe n'olaba omwana ow'emyaka 9 ng'ali mu kwemulira ku balenzi n'ogamba nabo ono kiki kya ono bw'anaatuukira 18 aba tabakwata bukwasi ng'ate mwana muto. Kubanga abantu tebalina kuswala mu mutima.
Mona Ajat Sara agamba mu chat room, are you saying that if a woman is divorced, then women cannot have their children in their new homes? Can you guarantee that the children would be safe with their fathers when left behind?
It would be good when they are left behind. Do you know why? To avoid what can happen that you wouldn't like. That even your child can chase you out of your own home. Ng'akutuddeko omusajja n'akugoba ye kennyini nnyini.
Naye waliwo abatanaaga nti ate eri gy'amulese wagenda kweta muka kitaawe ajja amubonyaabonye, the stepmother coming to mistreat the child, and therefore the mother decides ogenda ne luggage ye.
Ati awo ky'oba olaba either osigala oba omwana omutwala ewa bajjajjaabe ne bamukuza, kubanga oyinza okwagala bambi okubeera n'omwana wo naye n'otamanya ebisobola omugwako ng'oli gy'oli. Kyalibadde kirungi buli mwana, buli muzadde, ky'ova olaba ennaku zino waliwo a lot of divorces out of even small things. Oli n'alekawo abaana naye ng'ekimugjewo kintu kiti ne basobola n'okyogerako, ekyo ne kimugjawo. naye nze nga nze naali ndowooza kale buli muzadde bw'oba mutuusizza okwawukana abaana mufube okulaba ng'abaana abo muba buli omu afunako time okubeerako n'abaana abo, si muntu omu kubeera nabo. Gwe ng'okima bukimi sente okimanyi nti kakati ekiriwo, yes Hajji abadde abeera n'abaana abo nga yabaweerera n'obbaweerera, naye kati laba owe yatuusa ekiseera nga tasobodde nakola bibuuzo bya S4. Why? Because oli mu kuweerera abatali baba ababo bafowa goyinze kubanga oyagala kusanyusa mukazi. Ebyo ebintu ebyokugamba nti okusanyusa omukazi olina kwagala baana be, tosobola. Lwaki oyagala omwana wa mukazi wo okusinga omwana wo?
Muna ndikandete Hajjat Sarah mu conversation tovaawo Hajjat Sarah
nkyaliwo wendi mbawuliriza naye nze sigana buli muntu obeera n'endowoozayo obeera free ate saagala n'omuntu omulala akirabe nga jjeri oba njogedde ku kudaala oba kukola ki, naye nze nga nze kye naalirowooza kubanga ebintu ebijja mu maaso bigenda kubeera even worse. Ng'osanga abazadde bennyini taata kennyini n'omwana we kennyini gwe yeezaalira. Kati awo ate okikola.
Hajjat Sarah, come into the conversation, please. Talk to Muna and me, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Nenda keke wamaze afundikidde ng'alaga nti sikufundikira nga she said Muna has summarized saying that probably people should stay together and not separate.
Yes.
But one thing I've also noticed, I've been encountered with also parents who are living together and the father has molested their children, but the mom and the dad are together. I think this is a question of us revising what we're doing as human beings. Yeah, we as parents to change our own manners. Because if a man can do it when the mother of those children are there, then you wonder what one should do. It's all about our own morals. They have gone down the drain. Because I can't
what happened then, Hajjat Sarah? What happened? Where did we go wrong?
People are just doing everything they feel they can do and get away with it.
And people are going for likes, Hajjat Sarah. People are going for likes on TikTok. Full figure comes and abuses everyone, and the next thing she's appointed.
Empisa zituweddemu, ensonyi zituweddemu, tetulina kye tuswala. Zishekeke nga WhatsApp oyo akajja, there was something abantu abasinga ze bali bafudde ennomo. Ng'oba oli awo omuntu n'akuweereza pornography.
Yes.
Pooni yali afuuse pooni abantu abasinga tugenda nga tubajja ku bondi ng'omuntu guvunaanyizibwa alowooza ye bw'alowooza kyayagala naye akya kikuba ku bukubi. Ebintu abaana baffe olwaliro byalaba ku TV bannange edda walingawo TV yatandikanga nakiro ey'abakulu. Ng'essaawa ziwera ennya ne wabawo programu zono nga tezibaako na binene nnyo. Kulaba abantu beekiisinga oba babanga abagenze mu buliri naye nga tebalagana byennyo bigenze mu buliri. Naye olwaleero buli kimu bakiwawaawo ng'olwolaba ekyo naawe kennyini n'ogamba subhanallah oluusi oli awo n'abaana misana ttukutuku. Nagenze eka naye nensanga nga bw'obaako oluusi olinga supermarket naddeko awo Chinatown. Abaana abato abadde oshiba musoma yaddajjaawe Lugogo. Naye ng'abavubuka balino what they were doing was just doing some TikTok recording. Bonna ne uniform zaabwe. Bazina ge bazina gali obusiini ng'omuzadde otunayo munoosobola nakendeza ne kundabiramu nga nina omwana gwe njagala mugambe nti akakaaya kajjeeko naye nga mwana ono ayinza okunvuma gandaba omwana omuwala byefukuta byakola nezzayo endabirwamu yange nga mpulira nze amulaba mwana muwala muto ayina amazina gazina ataddeko akakaaya eno sikaati yo nnyimpi n'akakaaya kwe kali naye nga ndaba byazina tebiri wakikakaayako kitiibwa naye ng'afuba tafaayo ani amulaba omulala munne amurekodinga. Bwe twagenze ku visitation day era nga tulaba n'abalala nabo bali gye bali abali mmotoka z'abazadde baabwe bamusindika ku TikTok beemola, abalala bali mu kapaki nga what's going on? Kubanga waffe kanze oluusi ndwawo nnyo okugendayo niyo bintu byolaba unoosigala nga tokitegeera. Omwana olwaleero gwe omuzadde omutya okumugambako ne waaba ava mu nnyumba yo n'omulaba omwana ayambadde akantu afuluma naye nga gwamuzaala otya okumugamba kati ate y'obwerwa n'amugamba atya? Empisa zituweddemu bye tukola tebiriyo kituufu. Bino olaba byazze tukyogerako olwaleero naye ate kyawaddemu sigamba nti kituufu kyokkola naye kyawaddemu abantu abamu abaakirayo okutandika okulowooza ku biki ebiyinza okugenda mu maka gaabwe. Kuba much as social media is bad, much as we've been humiliated, but the thing is these things are happening.
We've touched taboo subjects. There are things that people
babikwekanga nga tebabifulumya.
Now we can. Yes.
Nga tebyogerwako tebirabwako kyannaku nti birimu abaana abato abali involved n'abaana abafa bamwera bonna kati ku masimu gaabwe kwebiri tebakubulira tebakugamba abaana bonna balina amasimu abasinga obungi. And they are constantly seeing these things which we seem to be making normal. Abantu abasinga abakulu comments ze bakola ku nsonga eno eriwo nazo zikwesiwaza. N'owulira omuntu omukulu nga ne wabanga ayogera olulimi era lulimu okuwemula ebyomuvaamu olaba nga si byavunaanyizibwa ogamba kati ono ayogeredde ki? Bane tuswala naye tumanyi ntuswala. Tweyambudde
naye anoonya likes.
N'alagaana n'ayogera kati ate twaguddewo program nga tunabakulaga teepu ya mukazi munnange Zoola. Naye ndabye Zoola nga akatebe kamubabudde n'akwata ku matu n'ayagala yimuka agende kati neesigala nga gwe mbadde munnange nfiiriddewo omubiri ngamba kati kiki kino ekigenda mu maaso. Lwaki ebigambo bya fulufiga bimwokyezza ennyo bwekyo kubanga yagamba mu mawulire nti anoonya ku buyambi abantu baganya omuwa obuyambi. Olwaleero they are trying to get her help ate naye nnyini byakola tebiri. Zoola omwana we alabika yagwa ku kibambulira. We don't know who did it, whether it is her. There is a problem in that house, but it's been so mishandled. Yes, there are lessons to be learned and we learn from them. Abadde tabimanyi ffe abamu twabiwulira dda twabirabako dda kubanga gy'emirimu gye tubadde tuwangaaliramu nga tugikola n'osirika n'obiwulira n'olabya ddala abantu ab'ebitiibwa nga bo batyo baswala. Omuntu buli muntu yenna atya omugambako yadde abazadde be kuba abasinga ssente zikulambira mu buli kyonna kyonna naye ekikulu kiri nti ebintu bino weebiri era mu society bitambuliramu. Nze nange naliko omwana omuto n'emyaka gye twaliko mu buto. Omwana waliwo abaami baali babiri nga bamanyiddwa ku kyalo ng'ate omu yazaala abaana bawala beerere naye ng'akula gwakwata yalina mutemi wa byenda nga musazi wa byenda ku bbucya. Naye ng'abantu abakulu bamwogerako naye nga tebatwatulira naye nga oluusi obuto omanyi oluusi badwayiza okugera tebamanyi n'omwana omuto awuliriza oba owezanyiikiriza naye ng'ate owulira bye bakola ki bye boogera naye nga bakukuta. Era n'omulala omukyala yanobanga enkya n'eggulo era naye akwata abaana be n'olumu omwana we twamusanga yasuze mu ffumbiro lyaffe mu ttundubali lya tata yange erya mmotoka ye nga mwe yeekwese twatuuza omufu bamusudde mu gundi. Bagenda okukuba omuwala adduse wa kitaawe yabadde amukwata mama we yanoba musajja omuze gumuli bubinyogo. Kaakati baatulaba bakusooka ne bakuba enduulu ate bakuba enduulu n'abato bajja baali balowooza omuntu yafudde bamutadde mu ffumbiro lyaffe. Naye ng'omwana yazze bukunya neyayingira mu gundi kati bamala okulaba nti omuntu mulamu ate mwana muwala amabere mukifu abato ne batugobawo naye n'abakulu ne bakyandolinga. Naye era olwokuba kyali kisasamaza era ebintu ebimu ffe twabisikanga abato twamanya nti waliwo embeera etebadde ennungi naye nga twategeera ddala naye bw'ogenda okola obaana n'obitegeera. Bino bye baayitanga amawemmunkalano mu society oluusi era abamu bakaggwa ensonyi badde babikola. Abakyala abakulu abasinga baayagalanga abapakasi baabwe oba okiva ku basajja kubana abakazi bangi ate badda kuno bukayanda nga babalabirye zonna emizannyo baagizannyanga naye nga these things have happened lwakuba nti olwaleero bifuuse very common. Era na wano wenyini mu UK bangi abaami abaswadde ne bamu ne basibwa n'okusibwa ku baana abo either abaabe bazaala oba abaana b'abakyala be bajja nabo. Kati ensonga yo nzito nnyo weeri mu society era yeeraliikiriza. Tusaba Allah ataase nga bwe bwagaye nti kiyinza okuba kiyama eddiini enkendeevu ko omuntu bw'olina imaani yo ddala okimanyi nti omuntu ng'oyo tolina kumubeerako n'obuwangwa bwe nnyini nnyini tebutukkiriza.
Yes. Are you worried that now even young girls who might be facing this situation might not be believed following what has happened now in the case of Zura's daughter Nisha?
Naddala abalina ku mabeere gwe ate oli bwakugamba nti omwana olw'okuba kati ayinza okuba mbu yalaba dda ku balenzi abalala naye abalaba atya was she really willing bameka abarepinza abaana abo n'abeera nga alina bad chance ye waabeera abeera arepingibwa. Today I had a funny conversation with one of my OBs. Nali simanyi naye amaze yafuna essimu yange naye alina strange story gyampadde n'antaga nti yali mukuluko ku nze nga nze ndi muto naye twatulanga ku desk yomu naye twagenda okukwata ensenene munayagala nkwateko era mbwankwane by that time biki byoyogera nga okumanya babaana abalenzi balina engeri gye bakulamu kati if he had raped me kananga ndaga nti yandabanga nga neegomba nga tuzanya naye ate bwe yawulira omulala ng'akutte omwana ate naye nakye but innocently he would have raped me probably kubanga twagendanga mu nsenene nga simanyiza ndaba mpakira nsenene a few things byagize biconnectinze ne mbitegeera naye nga olaba obwonoonefu bwo bubaddewo ebbanga lyonna weebuli wakubanga bubadde sibuli as common as it is now naye n'omanya nti ate oyo muto ku muto munne kati weesanga nga oyo abamu beebo bannaffe abaakuliranga mizigo nga mizigo abakadde bakola bye bakola baba bo babeera bakula mangu ne babitegeera kati ate bali abali sheltered ne batamanya
babazaako bawulira ye yabenga eŋŋombo babazaako
kabawulira wakati ye bwambuulira lifestyle ye neyange nze in that time I was so innocent sina kyentegeera sina kyemmanyi naye alina byanyumiriza ate oluvannyuma nemugaa nti ava ku simu nga all I am hearing is just rubbish naye kati yalaga something which would have been normal which would have been okay kale mbalaga abaana abawala bambi ebiseera ebisinga batuuka mu situations era abasinga oyinza okwesanga nga n'abamu they lost their virginity not because it was their choosing probably they were raped probably it was peer pressure kuba ku emyaka gye twakuliramu nga n'abaana mbaga obeera otya n'embuzi bakiraba nti kyaki obanga amakya era nga olaba buli omuddayo ku ssomero ng'oba otonyumya nti olina boyfriend obeera nga ow'emabega ennyo baagala bamanye nti nawe kakati wafunye boyfriend ebintu babitandise obikola so there is a lot going on and it doesn't mean because it's going on it's right. There is a problem ng'abantu abakulu to checking in ennimi zaffe tulabe best way to handle this problem because in a family yonna olaba nga abaana bonna abali mu nnyumba mo bakubulidde ebigambo ebyo simanyi bw'anaatunia tataabwe ne bamaama waabwe ate tekijja kubava mu mitwe gyabwe kubanga n'ebimu bye tutatumakinga nabyo sense nga tuli bato olwaleero bw'ogenda okula ogenda kino kiyinza okuba n'otandika gwe kenyini okubuildinga story gwe wekka if it didn't affect you negatively it's okay you ignore it naye bwe kiba kyaku affectinga ne kibeera mu mento kigira engeri kitawanyamu ne relationships z'omu maaso butya bw'odiringa n'abantu oba love life and
now
all.
That you mentioned this, there are people there are several women now, girls then, who would tell us about wawanga abasajja abakulu abakyalanga ng'awaka ogenda okulanga yayagala nnyo okulera abaana abawala amuleraarera ogenda okulaba bamuzanyisa amwagala nnyo agaba buswiti. Later on you come to hear the kind of testimonies of some of the things that were actually ebyagendanga mu maaso mu kubalera nga they've been traumatized and sat on those realities. But again, that's the thing. That's where we've gone. Thanks very much, Ajat Sarah. So how do we come out of this? Because now we can talk until the cows come. But since we've got deep down into this hole, how do we come out of it?
Nze ngamba buli maka twetereze tufenye bikuba biva mu maka gaffe twetereze abasajja mugumiikirize n'abakyala waliwo nabo bannawulidde babuleminze babeera nabo abaami baabwe ate ne babagaana naddala kati nga bwolabe newaffe UK wawafumbira omusajja okimanyi nti alina needs ng'omuntu ate gwe n'omulaga nti gwe tojja kuba naye ng'ate oyagala ate abeere awo bw'aba nno naamuna ennaku azimuwadde ayinza n'omusiibisa ddala n'abeera ng'ali mu ramadhaani kakati omutaddewo ate waka waliwo wenno babeera e Kampala bo balina n'abakozi era nga naye mukozi ajja kumwegomba naye ate olinawo n'abaana b'abakulu basiba mu mansulira bambala obuntuntu obutagasa ate omusajja omutadde ku njala kati bw'anaaba akulabye ogenze ku shifuti era kyanaddira kudda waka kubuuza ku baana bo ate kinaafuuka ekizibu. Twetereze mu maka gaffe sigamba nti kyemulina okukola abambi naye ate wabawo ebikemo naffe bye tukuba abantu mu maaso nga shaitaani ijja kumuzannyirako paka lwe neemumenya yadde ne bw'abanga muntu abadde ne imaani. Twetereze Allah ateremu wangu ya Rabbi. Assalamu alaikum.
Always a pleasure hearing from you, and just like everybody else who has spoken, I mean, fantastic. I mean, you can hear how far we have gone down the hole. Hasfa, your hand was up, and I wanted to bring in Zaid, but let me first bring you, Hasfa. Your hand was up, and then I'll bring Sheikh Zaid in just to sort of hear the week later on, you know, after a conversation that we've had, deep conversations that we've had. Hasfa, your hand was up. And I'm sure you wanted.
Yeah, I'll only speak for a minute. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Bananga, I'm one of those. Yaira wahajete omubere at the beginning. Era nemba obinyoneza iti muganda wange, and I asked for an apology. Kubanga I was passionate, I was upset. Naye kwegamba, when you hear certain things, ate bobera mama, you know, the clothes come out of relationship and not jumping to conclusions quickly. Now, couple of things from this story. First of all, Madanya Garagamba sister Mona, Sheikh Kene, Sheikh Zaidi Mwebli, you guide us. Bagamba nti ne bw'oba ofudde mama, the first option ey'okuwa omwana always goes to the mother's side. So basi bwe guli. And there's always the kagamba, you keep hearing it, omwana mandigenze ne kitaawe yandigenze owa kitaawe, naye obusiraamu butuyigiriza tutya? Mbadde nsaba guidance awo kubanga
obusiraamu kyaliwo ku mulumi gw'omubaka Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam era omubaka n'agamba abaana bagende mama waabwe.
Okay, barakallahu fikum. Kati ekiriwo, because we are hearing so many conflicting stories. Number one, ekintu ekiriwo, our character precedes everything we do. Kubanga katolira anybody coming out of Zura's defense. Kubanga deception after deception after deception has preceded her. Nti yatuusa okugera ne wabulayo omuntu n'omu amuwolereza. Ate Haji's character ate ng'ebadde nnungi nnyo, ate n'afunayo abantu abamuwolereza. Naye ate in all the stories, one of the what I heard from Haji's son, Haji ayina love. Okwagala yagala okwo abasajja kwe mutera okuba nabo ne musussa. Oluusi n'ebintu ne bituuka ne ku baana bammwe awaka nga temulaba, mwagala ne muyitawo. Omusajja ka Cliff Shekeke wagambye Zura yali muhani muzabbibu buli kamu konna. It completely shadowed that man's thinking. Kubanga yanyumirwa Sheikh Zaidi yangamba otokoonawo tulekeeko. Exactly. Kakati, now we are paying the price. Now, as much as we don't know what happened to Haji, naye Haji, when you hear the stories, nga batugamba nti gundi mugezi wanga mbulire edda, maybe that's not the right one. Naye the sister said, Mama yamugamba, there's another friend namugamba, eyo nga bomu gye weetulisizaako. And then Haji said, Mama, ne bwaba muladde wa siriimu ngenda muwasa. Kati Haji was warned and warned and warned. Kati batugaana oluusi nti mwana wange family gy'ogendamu si nnungi. I remember taata wange ng'agamba ako kalulu kajjada ke watakula. Ako ke watakula n'olwekyo biba bivuddemu, you have to bear the consequences. Naye baamuwooninga. Kati nga bwe bagamba eyo family gundi gy'ogenda oba eyo gy'ogenda nga si watuufu. Naye batawuliriza. Kati this is one of the consequences zetulaba. Kati Haji is paying a price of not listening. Kati era eri kwa bonna bakyagenda okufumbirwa bagenda okuwasa. Take a minute and listen and pay attention. Naye omuntu ono bamugaana naye kiki ekigenda maaso. That's my contribution. Barakallahu fikum.
As for there are times omuntu bwakukuba n'ogaana.
kituufu
luba nga
kituufu
tokyasobola kutegeera nga kaweddemu buli kutuula bwoti noga nti yarabbi naabiraba nga tuzze
naye Haji ne bamusiba n'obutujju n'awaayo buli kimu Haji n'adda e Sudan era n'akomawo maama ebeera laavu era mutabani we yasabye n'agamba nsaba Allah aleme kumpa laavu Haji gy'adde alina ey'omukozi oyo kuba mmanyi nti is dangerous.
Thank you very much. Sheikh Zaid, come in. I'd like to hear your take. Zaid, and then we can drop his off, I think. It's just...
Amina Keke.
Oh, Wori.
Keke.
Yes, it's a week in, Sebo. Let's hear your takeaway. What has it been for you, considering what's happened now? In the context, in the bigger context now of where we are as a society, as as a community.
Ndabawo injustice ne corruption mu mateeka mu poliisi ya Uganda ekisooka. Ate sinnalabako muntu yenna alumba poliisi. Bonna boogera ku Haji na ku mwana na Hajati ne poliisi bwe tuba bakugi-investigatinga naye ina ensobi nnene. Okusiba omuntu n'omusiba n'omunya ne ku poliisi n'omuteeka ne mu kkomera nga tonnafuna evidence. Ensonga endala yeyo yennyini mwanyinaze gy'abadde ayogerako. Haji asaana kibooko. Haji musiru. Sijja balimba Haji aswazizza abasajja. Haji musiru. Kubanga bwe buba nga si ddogo lya Zuula, Zuula batugambye si Hajati. Bwe liba nga si ddogo lya Zuula, toyinza kusiruwala Keke Shekeke gwe wenyini wakoze nnyo tuweza ka video kali ak'omukyala wa Haji omukulu n'obunyabonya omukazi gwe mwasula naye wabweru n'ogaggawala n'otuuka ku ebyo byonna n'ogobanga agoba oba ekiki nga tolina nakumuwadde olw'okuba ofunye omukazi akuwuganidde n'ajjako n'amabaati. Haji asaana kibooko era gama bino byonna Allah omanyi ebintu Allah bireetanga is either a punishment or a test. Naye Haji amanye nti ebikolimo by'omukazi oli birina omutuukako. Ebikolimo by'omukazi bw'erina amaziga ge yakaabye Haji is paying. Tayina magezi. Haji mwezira ali tayina magezi. Era ne mulambula mu kkomera mugamba musajja gw'oli musiru tayina magezi. Toyina mpeke ya magezi. Omukazi tayinza kukola ebyo byonna byakukoze. No family yo nga tokyagirabawo omukazi kugamba how can you be so stupid to that extent Keke? How? Haji tutegedde bakusibyeko bino nabiri yes. Hajati Zuula mukyamu yes naye oli musiru era oswaziza abasajja boy child era nsaba nnyo Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Keke nsaba nnyo Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala aleme kuwa abasajja bali kuno n'abalala mukwano ogwo ogw'ekisiru era mwenna abasajja n'abakazi musabe leero muge mu qiyamul layl musabe nti ayi Allah nsaba onzijemu omukwano ogw'ekisiru nze nagusaba Keke nagusaba mu qiyamul layl 3
ogw'ekisiru
Allah namusaba nti nsaba Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala onzijemu omukwano ogw'ekisiru kuba naguyinako okitegedde. So eyo ensobi Haji agikoze katusuubire nti taagiddemu kuba ali likely okuddira Zuula.
Yes.
Ali likely okuddira tayina Keke Haji ali tayina magezi tayina mpeke ya magezi.
Shezaidi omuntu yali akuleseemu looka n'osanga oli mu Galile nga tokyalabirako ddala nga
eyo gye nnali n'ensaba Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala nzijemu omukwano gw'ekisiru.
Saidi Katende Virginia mu US looks like he has unmuted himself. Alika alina kyagala okurespondinga. Saidi Katende baakulekako mu looka. Hello, wana Said. Salaam alaikum. Zaidi wadachagenda mumaso nenda bye olabise n'endowooza nti maybe you wanted to touch. She Zaidi genda mu maaso. Said katende microphone ndaba teriiko.
Ensonga eyokusatu bannanga bakyala tubawulidde bye mubadde mwogera mu byonna naye abaana mu mbeera yonna omwana omutaze ne maama we oba ne taata we tabeerangako na musango sheekeke omwana tabeerangako na musango ekintu kino eba personality ya muntu okubonyaabonya omwana oba okutuusaako omwana ono ekintu kyonna mulimu abaana abazibu fine mulimu abaana abazibu abaana naye omukyala bw'obanga ozze n'abaana bo omubaka sallam kyatuukawo nga bwe tubagambye omubaka sallam omusajja yali agalagala n'abaana be naye omubaka n'agamba nti maama yayonsa maama yakola sima gwe maama abatwale ojja kubawanga obuyambi naye nga omubaka yamala kuweyinga benefits eziriwo ku maama ne ku taata ani abaana banasinga kufuna mwani nga basinga kufuna maama mu maama kati omaama ono bwajja n'abaana abakyala bwemutufumbirwa ne mujja n'abaana leka kulowooza sekakeke kiki yayogedde kituufu mu mitima gy'abakazi nti omusajja wanjagalira abaana nange abanjagala tonkaka kwagala baana bo kusinga bange bozze nabo kinkaka kubanga kijja kuntamisa okitegedde abaana bo baleese mbasuza mbaliisa mbaweeredde waliwoko argument oba debate yaliwo nga omusajja bambi oba twagirina kuno keke omusajja bambi twagirina kuno keke omusajja bambi ng'atutte omwana we mu ssomero ery'ebbeeyi nga omwana w'omukyala amututte mu ssomero essaamusaamu so omukyala n'alowooza nti oba tayagala mwana we amugjeyo ne mu ssomero amugjeyo gy'amututte but listen ono mpeerera mwana wa musajja mulala talibeera wange never in life ne wagenda ku graduation ogenda kuleeta taata wadde nze muweeredde taata we yagenda okujja atule wali ne ku mbaga yagenda omuwaayo mu buli kimu n'omwana omusaayi gwe teguli kwatagana na gwange ayina kitaawe so tonkaka mbu ojja kulaba mbu nkwagala nnyo olwokuba nze okwagala ennyo nga nkulaze mu njagala nnyo abaana bo tokinkaka okitegedde era bwe kiba tekituuseewo kasita njagala abange benkuzaddemu so abakyala eyo mistake n'abasajja naye nga nze nalirowoozezza ekyalisinzeeko bulungi nti omukyala waabazze n'abaana ebulayi of course mugenda kuba n'abaana bammwe naye Kampala omukyala waabazze n'abaana omusajja kitwale nti eno zino nfuna mpeera wa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala okulabirira ebitonde bino kyonna nze keke mu nsonga ey'abaana mbateeka na mu ddiini okitegedde mu ddiini basoma byombi ne mbayigiriza okusaala ne mmanya nti nze wenfunira sibatwala buddo sibatwala kisubi nze wenfunira waawano nga basadde nze nkibasomesezza nga bakoze kyonna ekyaddiini kye bakola nze nkibakozesezza awo wenfunira kuba mmanyi tebajja kummanya
Thank you very much.
Mama wow.
Yeah, 10 o'clock. Oh my God. Time flies, wallahi. She's right. Nzikiriza ntambuleko nchimeyoko mu somebody else into the conversation. Mastura, I hear you. I'm trying to balance now man, woman, ladies, gentlemen, that way so that we can get a much wider perspective, especially going forward. Shezai, that was brilliant just in terms of how you've, partitioned or broken down the elements that need to be taken into consideration. Things that we should be taking much care about. We should not worry about women coming with their children or even husbands coming into marriages with their children. That's the other element that is also there. I think what we should do, though, there are particular things that we can do to avoid misconceptions. Things like not going into girls' rooms, girls' bedrooms. I think that's the other thing. Mastura noted, you can't talk from the message there. Not going into girls' bedrooms, that's one way. getting children to dress decently. I mean, we are in a country where people get into these Western countries, especially, and they just get mad. But then even back home, unfortunately, people have copied and they think they've watched this in a Nigerian Nollywood movie or Hollywood, and they want just to bring it into homes. Look at Asians and how they've managed, despite all the nonsense, they are still keeping to their norms. They will still dress decently. But young girls have a lot, of treasure to sort of hide, and they won't do that. So the thing is, at least let's create those conditions in homes. Let's bring religion into the homes, because that is very, very essential. Whatever religion, Islam, Christianity, if a person is brought up in a faith environment, it's different by any standards. It's just, interesting in a lot of ways. Avoid girls' rooms, but also, how you relate. Relationship with them, like them, love them, do stuff for them, but keep it within the confines of, the limits that are there. Ajat Sarah says, Zaid, so do you want the woman to also be at liberty to decide to love your children if she found you with children from your former relationships? I think yes. I would say yes. You can't force them to. I think Zaid responds to that. I can't force her to love them. We know our spouses. I think everyone knows each other, but oftentimes, I think someone did mention that before you get married, try and sort of read. I think it was Hasfa who brought it, or was it Zaid? Talking about the essence of making sure we interrogate, not interviewing them, but interrogating the thought processes, trying to understand this person. Unfortunately, there are times when that might work. A lot of times it won't work. In Banyankore, they've got a proverb. It says, Ozara Araguza Oshwera Abuza. If you give birth, you will learn medicine, because you'll hear this herbal treats this one treats this because you've given birth. So because of having a child, you get to know the medicines. But also a person who marries asks, before you get married, dig a little bit. And if you hear some of these comments, try not to ignore them, because in the depth of love, sometimes you get blinded. But women have
sekeke kwekyo kyennyini kankoyo example emukunze eyantuukako nga sinafuna mukyala wange nga nkyanoonya nayina nga kyokozesa ekigambo kyemankozesa interrogating them kati muna engeri gyendi tuli baseeka yaŋŋamba nti nze ezo dalasa zammwe zemubeeramu jjukira dalasa tugenda mu dalasa buli weekend biri ezo dalasa zammwe zemubeeramu ze wange tezijja kujjayo nze nkuze mama wange mama wange yasama kabusamusi naye ti haji aleeta abasaamu n'afumba ewaka n'afumba nze ebyo sibijja bikola era togeeza n'oleeta dalasa ewange eyo yali red flag shekeke kati mukwano ogukubikira ki ng'omuntu akuwoningiddewo muntu tayagala yadde eddalasa okusala ewuwe kati mba munonyako era olwo lwe nakoma keke olwo saddayo mulabako paka leero naye omanyi ebizakake nga obadde ogamba abantu omuntu akuwa red flags naye noziignore.
Yes. And actually that's what I was coming to, that actually be very careful. Do not ignore these red flags. They happen for a reason. Sometimes Allah is trying to show you something and you decide to be blind, thinking and hoping that you will change someone. Very few people have been successful in changing people. Someone's character is there. You can just only nurture it and nourish it, but you won't change the person. The person, it's very difficult to be changed. Once you ignore the red flags, be ready for the outcome. Just be ready for what is coming in. Jaden, you've been very quiet, and a lot of Luganda, I'm sure you are following in the boat. You are not lost at any point. How did we get to where we are at now, where we are struggling? Assalamu alaikum. I'm not getting to see you, and yet we are getting very close to something that you know is happening.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I know you're not seeing me, but we keep missing each other.
No, I need to see you now. It's really crucial that I see you now.
I think it's a bit too late until the Saturday.
Subhanallah. How did we get where we are at now? I mean, as per the program.
I think I've been picking a point here and there, and two things that I wanted to raise. I'll start with what Brother Fazil Mayanja said at the very beginning of the discussion, and he was putting the blame solely on the social media and technology advancements of technology. But I would really like to differ from that, because the technology is just the medium, because we have always had different media. We had our snail mail those days, we had the gossipers, we had now the advanced technology. This is all the way of relaying information from one point to the other. So that to me, that is something which has always been there. What has changed is the speed at which information moves from one place to the other. So to me, it's the people who involved in that technology. So let's look at the river, for example, the River Nile flowing from Uganda to through the Sudan and then to Egypt. So it will always be there. So whether you engage with it, it's your responsibility. How you engage with it is your responsibility. Many people dive in to engage with the river. There's people who just stand by the banks to wash their clothes and their legs. There are those who just go to fetch. There are those who take their animals to drink. So the river will always be there. So what we are engaging in now is we are jumping into this communication, and everybody is coming with their views. So you've got your own views. We've had different views all the way from last week. And we don't know who is telling the truth. We don't know who is actually turning this thing from a little hill into a big mountain. And when you choose to engage with the communication, at whatever point you join in, there will always be people who have twisted it, one, for their benefit, and two, out of ignorance. And there are people who want to make themselves be like the source of the information. So we are all in this in this discussion, 21 people in this discussion today. But if you ask each and every one of us tomorrow what we've got out of this discussion, we will find different stories. There will be 21 different stories. So it's the same thing which is happening with this story of the Haji and whoever. So we should all feel guilty in promoting that particular problem. Instead of allowing the problem to solve itself, we are magnifying it by putting in our own views, giving our own twist to suit our own interest. Because people go in to find knowledge. We are all inquisitive. We are human beings. We want to find out how this story began. That's your question. Where will it end? This is all our thoughts, and we all wish the little girl to begin with. She comes out the other end with maybe her sanity intact, because we don't know how much it's affecting her. So we go in for information. We go in, but none of us here has picked up the phone to say, let me look for this young girl and give her some moral support, or let me speak to the Haji and help him out of this dilemma, or let me speak to the Hajati and find out if she's actually telling the truth. So we're just getting into and muddling and making the waters even muddier and muddier. And I'm not blaming this interaction. This is a good base for us to exchange, but we should be conscious that, are we helping the situation, or are we making it any worse than it should be? That's point number one. Point number two is, how did we get here? In my view, it's the lack of shame. People have lost that bit of humanity. People no longer feel ashamed to say things that they are not meant to say, or to listen to conversations that they are not meant to listen. So that lack of shame, you're muted, I think. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was muted and I wasn't even noticing. Now, saying, Jaden, you're mentioning of shame, and sorry to, cut in because I might forget. Once you start getting old, that's the problem. Memory starts lapsing slowly. But the Prophet ﷺ said, very short, very sweet, very straight to the point words. The Prophet ﷺ said, the moment you ever lose shame, do what you want. Just that. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, the moment you lose shame, do what you want. I think that almost actually states the way you've exactly put it. Please go ahead. I just thought I should flag it because in those few words, in those two words, are a lot of meanings.
And it's rightly so, because without that shame, you lose that conscience of how will people look at me in the community? How will my children who are growing up, how will they see me when I utter certain words or when I behave in a certain way? So this is what is happening. The Hajat, Allah is the one who knows whether she made the allegation knowingly or unknowingly, or whether it's a fact. The fact that she's brought it out in a public forum means she's lost that shame of what is going to happen to herself, to her husband, and to the girl who's involved in it. And then those people who pick all these things up, you are picking up photographs, you are picking up discussions and disseminating it without knowing the consequences. Because if the truth finally comes out and says, look here, the Haji did not do it, like some lady was saying last year, I think if she had her way, the Hajj would have been crucified a long time ago. So
yes,
if it turns out that it's not the way she thought, or it's not the way we think or I think, and it's the other way around, how would you come out and face the public? Will you be able to say, sorry, I was disseminating this information, and I feel ashamed to have done that? So those are my two points which I felt I should share and let people digest. And
right, Jaden, just briefly, is it possible to recover shame, to recover shamefulness? Because since we've lost shame, is it possible that we can recover shame?
I think it's a difficult question, that.
Because now, how do we? Because we have dipped so deep, or rather, we've gone in so deep, but we must have a way to come back. I recited a verse from the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, "Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim." That God does not change a situation for a people until and unless they change their own situation. So it starts with you. Then God now aids you in the process of you realizing that you are in the wrong. You've gone so deep, you've gone so bad, and you want to come back. But once you change that, then God changes it for you. So it starts with us, and we have to do something. Is it possible to recover shame? And how do we do that?
But you see, God also gave us the inquisitive mind, the inquisitive nature. And that most times is the beginning of shame, because you are inquisitive, you want to gain knowledge, and in the process of gaining knowledge, of wanting to find information, you land into information which is not meant for you, or information which it does not stand well with your values or with your respect. But because we are inquisitive beings, we want to find out more. Where will this end? It's itching in you. Itakwisha wapi mambo? It means that I want to be there when it ends. And this is why we are engaging in this conversation. We want to be there when it ends.
Yes.
And in that process, we are uttering things, myself included. I may be uttering things which may turn out to be wrong. And I'll be ashamed that I said such things. So I don't know if it's going to be easy to to remove that shamefulness that you're talking
Thank you
about.
very much, Jaden. It's one story that I've actually, when you look at where I started the week from and where I ended the week at, it is quite amazing. You start with anger. We start with, annoyance of this man with a beard, with a kanzu, who has gone out, and, ravaged this girl's life. And we just start imagining a lot of things. And then slowly, things start coming up that make you start to change your mind, even push you into shamefulness because you're thinking, you are regretting. As for her to apologize because of how she felt then and how she feels now, knowing what she knows now. It is quite interesting times that we are living through. Ida K, are you there? I think we should be wrapping up the conversation tonight. It's been another very, very fruitful conversation, hearing what we are hearing and seeing, what we've learned. I just realized we've been unable to answer one question. What's the way forward? How do we get out of this? Jaden says he can't wait for the end of this story to see where it ends. And therefore, will it signal a way out for how we should be dealing with our own situations to try to change the situation? It's looking bad. Religious leaders have lost it. Cultural leaders have lost it. We as individuals have lost it. Parents have lost it. Children have lost it. Since when did it get that now parents would fear children and children now would be ordering around their parents? Are we trying to overcompensate in our love for our children that in the process we have spoiled them? We have lost the kind of what made us parents. It does not mean beating them or coming in and being Mr. Taffy. No, there's an authority that we use to carry, but that has been lost. It's a question that I don't have an answer for, and once I feel honestly empty. It is a difficult situation that we are in now, and we must and should do everything that we can, including serious prayer, to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us through this situation. M and Noah, I'll be coming to you as the last people to have the word tonight before we call it a night. M, as in the letter. M, are you there? Or Noah, whoever comes, Noah, whoever comes first. Or Noah comes in first. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Good to have you. You've been all quiet, I'm sure, listening in and trying to assess and gauge what everyone has been saying. First of all, looking from last week into this week and knowing what you know now, how do you feel? Then I'll go to the question.
One is one piece that I've never known. Okay, you've had it, we've used it, the title of Haji.
Yes.
But the weight that comes behind that, right? It's not until you're a Hajj, so but Hajj nakola what, Hajj nakola, even those who are not Muslims. So for those who are Hajjis, we've set the bar, and people, it's part of truth, trust, just having that title. So just the fact that Hajj could be suspected of that kind of tainted the Hajj side of things. What is also worrying in the way citizen journalism can report and everybody making stories, that even going to the courts of law becomes very, very, whether it's genuine, it becomes very difficult to pass judgment. But one thing I would like to state out, I'm not covering up for Haji, the fact that there was even suspect of drugs. Nobody has nullified that school of thought that he uses drugs. That's an issue in itself alone, right? So here, definitely in the diaspora, DUI, the beauty, if you're Muslim, when you get pulled over, they say, have you been drinking? And you tell the officer, I have never. That puts you in another category. Even the discussion changes, right? Even the way he approaches you, right? Now the fact that, okay, there are drugs involved, it keeps Haja a suspect in some angles. So even getting defense becomes a problem. But what I would like to say, our sisters touched on it on the other side. I know the situation women, mothers, girls go through. They get a lot of sympathy, and it's easy to speak about it. But I want to be also that there are men suffering in silence. You cannot speak you know, and somebody would say, yes, by the way, but you know, you are a straight man, you can't say that in public. And for us, we have a lot of respect and protection for our spouses and our mothers, our daughters, right? Ninga, we also need to find a way of addressing some challenges that men, they don't have forum to. You're not going to go on social media that, hey, my wife did this to me and this and that. No, but it's a resulting cause for that. I think going back to the basics, if there is any way we can save the marriage institution.
Mm-hmm.
Because the remarrying, the marrying, I know it's inevitable, but the moment that institution breaks, a lot of things happen. And at the end of the day, those children will need fathers. You support. I like what Sheikh Zaid said, that you may not love them normally until Zavan and Tademo Isigo. Lila, that's my contribution to them from Allah's path. But yeah, that's what I would take, and maybe see how we clean up the title of Haji. Because when they say Haji, now can you only Haji never back to demo. You know, I'll never Haji Munyo Nenjaga, I'll never Haji Mukola Wemuti. So to avoid that blanket stereotyping of events like those, it's unfortunate it's happening. But thank you for the audience and trying to discuss these issues on the path forward. Citizen journalism, these phone cameras, the TikTok.
Noah ogitadde kuba Haji wokka. Today mbadde ntwala passenger. She was 23 years old. Tata wa ina prostate cancer mu Cyprus, Musai. Kati abadde anyumiza nagamba, but my dad is a Muslim, our background we're Muslims, we're Sunnis, but you know Sunni Muslims drink, yeah? Nagamba, what did you say? Sunni Muslims drink? Yeah, they drink, they don't care about drink. Namgamba, I'm a Sunni Muslim and we don't drink. Nanga, oh, maybe it's a Cyprus thing. Nesibu a category generalizing nti abasunni fena tukola ki. So na kino bahaji batumaze dda.
That's absolutely true. I was looking for M to give her the last word. It looks like while Noah was talking, M dropped off quickly. Aida, if you are there, I'll give you the last word, and then inshallah, we can look to what's next week. It's been a long conversation. I thank you actually for staying around, but I'm sure actually through this we distress. Aida, thank you very much. I can see you have unmuted.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
How are you? Yes.
I'm fine, thank you. Topic njigudde mbuwi. Walla n'ebyo ebiri ku social media sinaana kubiraba.
No, it's not just so
I'm
much
not a
about
person abeera ku gundi ku social media nga ndaba alaba ebintu. Walla oba ndi mabega nnyo simanyi.
No, actually new to what has happened to our society, but leaders trust has gone.
Oh yes, trust.
Agenda boarding school noga nti omumuwadde nti seeka wuno ntwalira omwana e Newcastle nga mwana wa buwala myaka gyetuuse.
Sisobola kikola ekyo Shay.
You see now, it's that what has happened to that? How comes people would do it and people would be safe, and now we have ended up in this situation?
Abantu bakyuka emitima n'omuntu gw'otrustinga gwowa ekitiibwa oyinza okutunuulira omusajja ng'omuwa ekitiibwa tasobola kubeera nga takwatibwa nsonyi kugamba nti nkwagala ng'ate obadde omuwa ekitiibwa okitegeera. So in that way nze kati buli omu mulaba nga bwe mulaba okitegeera like mutwala ngo normal people sikyagamba nti oba ono Sheikh kubanga ne gw'oyinza okuwa ekitiibwa ayinza okuga nti nkwagala ngamba omuntu ono mbadde muwa ekitiibwa muntu mukulu kaakati olwo naakuwa nti omwana nga omusomese nga nange otandise kumpita mu buyisi okitegeera. Nze muwala wange waliwo omuntu gwe yakyawa, I'm sorry to say this gundi kansubire nti tekuliko bantu naba bali awo bamanyi omuntu gwe yakyawa kugamba yamubuuza but these kids are very sensitive. Alhamdulillah, engeri gye nkuzizaamu abaana bange. Tasobola kuva eri n'akwata omusajja mu ngalo. Amanyi ekyo is taboo. Naye oli yamubuuza n'amukwata mu kiwato, naye yasobola okujja nga mami, this person, he hold my waist. He shouldn't do that. He's a man. Naye yanyigira omuntu oyo up to now, wallahi tamwagala. So ate nga bambi oli yakikola ndowooza innocently. I don't know. Anyway, nze bwe nkireeta. Naye ngezezaako omwana omugamba nti osanga teyali amanyi no, he should know better. I'm a girl. So okuva olwo kyakyusa abaana ego empisa zaabwe era batiira ddala abasajja kitegeera. So nze simanyi oba nze ngenda ne ntunulira ebintu ne ngamba ndowooza ekiyama kituuse.
So what can we do? Binonera tubirabi.
Abazadde ndowooza batuule n'abaana bababuulire situation nti eri bweti, bababuulire nti kimunange bw'ogenda ebweru wajja kubeerawo kino bwe kiti. Nze waliwo omuntu approach nga n'aŋŋamba nti kati omwana we akuze olina omutuuza ogule kondomu ozimuwe omugambe nti no, in case of anything you have protection. Ne mugamba no, I don't do such. Ekyo sikikola. Mbeera nga mutumye okitegeera. Naye tutuuze abaana tubasomese eddiini, tubagambe nti obusiraamu bukola bwe buti okitegeera. Bw'omuzadde gwe wennyini gw'ogenda okwesomeseza omwana wo okitegeera. Naye kaakati naffe abazadde tetulina budde. Tugoba ssente, twagala ssente ne twerabira abaana, ate wansi omwana bw'akonoonekako kaba kaweddemu. Naye tuddeko emabega nga bwe baatukuza ffe. Oyinza okufuluma ebweru nga tukyali bato, ng'oyinza okubeera ebweru paka ssaawa 4 ng'okolayo ki. Naye kati wano omwana agamba ngenda out nkomawo 4. N'omugala lwaki ogenda komawo 4? Mikono gye bakomawo na 6, nze nkuyambye okukomawo 4. Kitegeeza. Ye omwana yakiŋŋamba ne mugamba don't start. Nagamba ngenda wali kumpi naye lwakuba yandirespect nga n'akomawo essaawa ate ez'okumpi. Nagamba mbadde sobola kukola ekyo, nalabye nga kikunyiizizza. Abazadde tutuule tusomese abaana baffe eddiini, tubabuulire kuba kati eno ensi it's like a shark erirwedde kumira. Tubabuulire naye tulemereddwa okugira ate tewali agenda kubuulira baana baffe. Nze kyensuubira ekyo.
Barakallahu fikum. But I thank you very, very much. It's been a long one. 11:15. We almost pushed it thus far. Thank you very much. Aida, you had the last word. Thank you to everyone who has participated in the program. Remember, if you've missed anything in the program, you can always catch up. Just go to YouTube, look for Come Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira, or simply look for Ummah Connected, and you'll be able to find episodes of Come Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira. Or just go to www.facebook.com/75W Radio. And there you'll be able to also catch up, just like you can go to www.75wradio.com and you'll be able to also find any of the programs that you might have missed. We will be back next Tuesday, inshallah, after a very long weekend, subhanallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us all. Hope to see you next week all. Thank you very much for being part of this program. You make it what it is. It is from you that we actually have the conversations. These conversations build us up. You never know what you hear. It may change you forever. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Have a very good night. Thank you to the technical team, Isma in the studios, Asfa in the US, and her sister Habiba here in UK. Hope to see you next week again. And once again, I thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi